So Joel, right away.
So I was going to do the entire.
If you want to do it, do it. So what are you wearing right now? What is this?
So when I first,
I don't know if it's going to work with the microphone.
That's the problem with the mask.
When I first heard about this mask and told my editor about it, he's like, "Oh, great! See if you can board a plane wearing it."
Right.
And I said, "I don't think you understand what this mask looks like in person. I'm not getting on a plane in any country that we're familiar with wearing this mask." So there's this artist he teaches at Brown right now, but he was in Chicago when he made that mask. Chicago is the most surveilled city in our country. There's, I think, something like 50,000 plus cameras that are all connected through a system throughout the city that are taking pictures at all times. So they can track people pretty well as far as the police are concerned in Chicago. There's the mask that I just showed you. So this artist, Leo Salvaggio, made it. It's his face. And his idea was, I'll get everyone in Chicago to wear it, or enough people, where the cameras will just think I am everywhere and I'll screw up the whole system. So my first idea, of course, was to put on this mask and commit a bunch of crimes and let Leo Salvaggio deal with it. But I haven't really thought of the perfect crime yet, so I haven't done that. And plus, you don't look like Leo Salvaggio. You look like someone coming out of a Eastern European nightclub on a meth bender. So I decided not to wear it in public.
Okay, so walk us through
Right.
this agenda for a week, because it was really elaborate. And when I read this article and I was looking for content this year, I stumbled onto this piece. This, like anybody, as soon as you see the image and the title, you're inherently curious. And this was
it's the same suit and shirt I'm wearing now. Sadly.
It is, yeah.
I have one suit, I just realized.
Right. The article is incredibly educational and entertaining, but why did you do this? Why were you contracted, and what exactly did you do?
So the idea was, it wasn't just a week, it was quite a while, it was a couple months, where I would try and hide my data and my living in my meat space living from Silicon Valley. So obviously the first easiest move would just be to get a flip phone and move to the woods, but I'm not a freak. So I was not going to give up. As an American, as a consumerist, the only way to fight gadgets, I figured, was by buying other gadgets.
Sure.
So I went to look for gadgets made by companies outside of Silicon Valley that really care about and promote keeping your privacy, and I tried to use them either instead of the tech that we use or in addition to the tech that I was already using.
Okay, got it. And were you successful? Are you able to operate? And what does it take?
Well, first of all, and I know you've had like Snowden and other people talk about this, but I think it's important, when we talk about privacy, I think it washes over people, because like when you think about your privacy, do you think you have to worry, and are you willing to do anything to worry, or who do you think has to worry about privacy?
I imagine I do, and
Why?
I'm kind of torn by it. Good question, why? And I guess if you're asking me who has to worry about privacy, I would assume I do, but I'm not too worried about privacy.
No, of course you're not, and I wasn't either. And because you're like, when you drill down and make people answer this question, they almost always answer with either criminal or terrorist.
Right.
Like, those are the people who need to worry about privacy, and I don't. And I'm kind of psyched that there's the Ring doorbell, that I have, and I'm kind of psyched that there are these facial recognition cameras around, because we're more likely to catch criminals. What I encourage people to think about is criminals and terrorists are a vulnerable group. The government is after them. They're a very, very vulnerable group. Their privacy is important to them. They're not the only vulnerable group, and at different points in our lives, it's likely we are going to be in a vulnerable group. Now, the kind of people who write about tech privacy are mostly dudes about our demographic.
Sure.
And what they are worried about is
my dark secrets on the internet.
Specifically,
porn.
That's all they're worried about. It's just dudes worried that people are going to know what kind of porn they watch. That is not the biggest concern in the real world of privacy. No one really cares about what porn you watch.
Probably not.
The vulnerable group, the largest vulnerable group, is women who are suffering domestic abuse. And they have boyfriends or husbands who are tracking them and who are extraordinarily jealous. And they may have stalkers, they may have exes. These are people whose privacy is super important for them. And how many of you know that if you like go on your Google Maps data right now, you can press on something called timeline by a show of hands? That's a small percentage of people here. All right, well, either right now, if you're bored, or right after, go to Google Maps, press timeline. It lists everywhere you've been, and it'll give you the places you most often go to. Not just when you're using Google Maps either. Anytime, especially if you have an Android phone, every time you've been somewhere, it's in a cheery way keeping track of it and giving you that data. Now, if anyone hacks into your Google account, or just as likely, especially if you're in a abusive relationship, just goes over to your phone or computer where you're logged into Google, which is always, they can find out everywhere you've been in real life. And there's data like that that's just available now everywhere. When I checked into my flight, not this one here, I was going to France, we did not have to show, when we got on the plane, our passport or even our boarding pass. It was Delta and Air France are using facial recognition. So everyone's just looking at this thing. And you supposedly could opt out, but no one who worked there knew how to opt out of it. So now Air France knows my face. Sure. And the facial recognition software has gotten so good. I know in March, the New York Times put a camera on their rooftop and bought, I think it was $60 they spent on Amazon's company Recognition, with a K instead of a C in the Recognition. And they just pointed the camera down in Bryant Square Park, and they were able to, I think, recognize 3 or 4 people based on photos they had of themselves on the web. So they could tell where, they just had information of where somebody was.
Right. I don't know if you saw it at our registration, and raise your hand, did you upload a photo and use the facial recognition check-in? And so we're a tech conference, we're trying to be progressive and forward-thinking. But
now these dudes know wherever you are. They can find you.
They don't. They do delete all the photos. They're all gone.
No.
They don't keep them. It's a local Vancouver company. High level of trust. But
I do trust Canadians a little more than Silicon Valley, I will say.
Yeah, and it's, but my big question was, are people going to engage with this, right?
No.
It'll expedite registration, it'll get people in the show faster,
People
and
love
it's kind of cool.
It's awesome. I mean, I unlock my phone with Apple knows my face better than my wife, right? Like, Apple knows every contour of my face by now. And that's an amazing piece of information I've given them.
Well, it's like it's like many new tech adoptions, right? We're very enthusiastic and excited by the competency and ability. We don't think about the repercussions, right?
Right, so I like to think about times I have been in a vulnerable group. I'm Jewish, so I like to easily just think about 1933 Germany. But I also have worked for Sony writing stuff. And I think about the Sony hack. And I searched my name as soon as that Sony hack happened. Because there was what I would consider innocuous emails from executives at Sony. This is after North Korea hacked Sony after the movie The Interview about North Korea. There was a Seth Rogen comedy about North Korea that was never released because Kim Jong-un got pissed off and he hacked Sony's computer and just put all the emails on, gave it to WikiLeaks. I think it was WikiLeaks. And so a bunch of people around Sony lost their jobs because they had made jokes about Tom Cruise to each other on their emails, or made jokes about Barack Obama. You know, things you would make, you know, in tone, with the right tone with someone would be fine, but when you're Tom Cruise and you're searching your name and you find out that, like, you know, the head of Sony Studios was making jokes about you, right, it could end your career. I think a lot about, like, if there was a giant hack and all my emails were out there and they were easily searchable, and my mom searched her name, like, what have my wife and I said about my mom in passing? So, like, we are all much more vulnerable than we think as far as our data is concerned. It just hasn't happened to us yet, and hopefully it won't.
And after doing the deep dive that you did, you know, for most of us that might not think about this as hard as you have, where are we most exposed, and where? Oh,
yeah, stop giving out your cell phone number. Like, your cell phone number is worth...
Why is that?
It's worth more in the dark web than your social security number by a couple of X.
Give me an example of where I might throw my cell phone number.
Oh, every time you go online and sign up for somewhere, every time you go to the doctor's office, every time you fill out a form, it's asking for your cell phone and your email address. Also, maybe don't give out your main email address because, you know, because it will get compromised at some point and you will have to give it up. And as pathetic as it is, we've all become like oddly, our identity is wrapped up in our email address, and we kind of are sad about it. And so if that's important to you, don't give that out either.
So other than being spammed, what happens when we share this information? What are we exposed to?
You have given up a lot of information about yourself. Now, on one level, that's great. You'll get targeted ads, which some people mind them. I think they're better than untargeted ads. So that's great. But you've also exposed yourself to a lot of potential hacking, which can be a real problem in your life. You've also potentially, let's say, look, we're in Canada, I'm not too worried, but let's say we're in another country that is much more authoritarian, like America, and we are a DACA recipient. And suddenly things turn on us where we don't want ICE having our information. Or the government turns in a much darker way, or there's an unscrupulous sheriff in our town. I don't think you want to give out as much information to companies as you're giving out.
Okay. Now, what was the most shocking thing you learned through this process, going undercover? And by the way, were you successful, do you think, after, you had everything from phone scramblers to remailers, face masks?
Yeah.
Where did you succeed and where did you fail?
I really just wanted to cleanly accomplish one thing, which is to buy a privacy screen online. Those screens you'd attach to your phone or your computer so people can't peek from the left or right?
Yeah.
Great for watching porn on an airplane, I bet. So I don't know why you're the porn guy now. So I just wanted to buy one of those online anonymously. That was my entire goal after buying all these gadgets and doing all these things. And I went to, I think, privacy.com, and I got a credit card made. You can get a virtual credit card tied to your bank account that won't track your purchases.
Okay.
Because your credit card gets a lot of information and shares a lot of information every time you buy something. So I got a credit card from Privacy. I got an email address from Pseudo. I got a cell phone number from Burner. And these are all things you can use on your phone that aren't tracked.
And how much are you in now financially?
Very, very little. The Burner was a couple bucks a month. My Pseudo is free, and the
Burner is just a phone that's not tied to any one person?
It's on your phone. It's an app on your phone.
Oh, it's an app on my phone.
And you can generate new phone numbers with whatever area code you want. And so I did, for April Fools, I grabbed one from my area code and sent texts to my wife, supposedly from a dad at our school, saying he had a crush on her.
From a dad at your kid's school?
My dad at my kid's school, I told my wife that he has a long confessional text about how he had a crush on her. And don't do that.
How'd that go over?
It did not go over well. I thought you could do whatever you want at April Fools. You cannot. Yeah, that's not a good use of the Burner app.
Okay.
But no, you just get, through the Burner app, all of your texts, and it tells you what number it's from. Same with my Pseudo. It's just an app. And it gives you create emails and you dispose of them. Like,
what is my Pseudo?
My Pseudo will create a bunch of email addresses for you. That again will go straight to your phone, just like a regular email.
Yeah.
Except you can dispose of them. So let's say you want to buy
disposable aliases for your email.
Yeah, you want to buy something on Craigslist, but it's a little sketchy, and you don't want this person having your information forever. You create an email. You buy your thing. You never use that email again.
Okay.
And that's the great thing about the privacy credit cards too, is that if you want to make a purchase and you don't, I remember talking to I think when Girls Gone Wild was big. Girls Gone Wild, you saw the commercial online on your TV.
Yeah.
You thought you were buying one DVD, and Joe Francis actually charged you every month for a new DVD.
Okay.
Now, subscription services can be both illegitimate like that, or legitimate, where it's like, just sign up for this every month or every year, and hopefully you'll forget about it and we'll keep charging you.
It's a great business model.
It's a great business model. You should all try it. But if you want to escape from that business model, you can create a credit card just for that purchase.
Okay.
Or it's my Spotify credit card.
Right.
And it's going to expire, and they're going to have to call me, and I'll see if I want to do it then. So I found that, and that was free as well, the privacy credit card.
Okay.
So I wasn't in for that much money.
Yeah, now you've covered your cell phone, you've covered your email, and you've covered your transactions online.
Yeah, and so then I wanted to have this thing sent to me from Amazon, this privacy screen. but I didn't want to give them my address, my home address.
Okay.
So I was going to go to a remailer.
And what is a remailer?
Remailers are physical places you can go to, kind of like a P.O. box. You pay them, they use their address, both
Okay.
for the return and the sending.
Okay.
So you go there physically, and no one knows it was from you.
Got it.
This is particularly sketchy to me.
Why?
I don't know. When I was thinking about doing that, I felt like I was either a stalker or a mail bomber. Like,
sure.
who else is, I mean,
Who's
again.
walking in there, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what kind of people did you
I didn't go.
Oh,
So what
okay,
I found out was this is awesome, but Amazon has thought about this. And they've also thought about people who live in dorms where they can't get things delivered easily, or people who are getting their packages stolen. So Amazon has Amazon lockers. Have you ever seen these?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, they're all over the place now. They're, so I signed up, I asked, Amazon just was willing to mail me my privacy screen at an Amazon locker.
Okay.
So I went to a 7-Eleven about a mile from my house, and before I left, I turned off my phone, I put it in a Faraday case.
A what case?
Which is, I know I sound crazy, don't I? Okay, hold on. This is...
Because you're still walking around with this phone, number scrambler or not.
It's off, so that takes care of most of my problems.
Okay.
But so a Faraday case blocks all of the
All the signal.
all signal coming in or out.
Okay.
It just has some metal lining.
Is it
It's
in
not a big deal.
is it in your bag of tricks
I'm trying
here?
to figure out. Hold on. I forget what I brought. Yeah. Okay. So I just got a little one for my
Okay.
cell phone.
So
So you can also get them for your wallet because your wallet has RFID chips in its credit cards.
Protects your credit cards, all this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So I got that, and then license plate readers have become a really big business.
Sure. Why?
So cops are, a lot of cops have license plate readers so they can track where cars are at various points. That way, if they need to find somebody,
That's one I don't think about. And is that, how active is that? Are
really
cars?
active. And
Okay.
it's not just the public, it's not just the government, it's private sectors too. So there's a huge company out of Silicon Valley whose name I'm blanking on that collects a lot of parking lot, even like when you pay to go to a parking lot, they collect a lot of data from there. They collect them when cars are driving, and they sell this data on the private market. And they sell to cops, they sell to repo people, and they sell to ICE. Although they've denied selling to ICE, but they've been caught selling to ICE.
Interesting.
So I was looking into buying a clear cover for my license.
That would scramble the numbers and
It doesn't scramble. It looks clear when you're looking at it, but cameras, it creates enough glare for a camera where they can't record it. They are illegal in all 50 states.
okay.
And Business Week will not reimburse me for illegal purchases.
Got it.
So I bailed on that, but I got this artist to make this shirt. So
this is homemade.
This is, but you can buy them now because she put it on. I don't think anyone's ever bought one besides me, but she put it on
Okay.
Cafe, whatever.
And what do we got here? It looks
So
like
okay, it's beautiful first of all, and it's got a bunch of license plates on it.
Okay.
So this woman works. She's a privacy person, but she also works with abortion clinics. And a lot of people stand outside abortion clinics and write down the license plates of doctors or patients there,
Sure.
so that they can be tracked. So she created this, and this is just kind of a shot in the dark hope, kind of like that mask, that this will confuse, send junk to the system. So they'll be
So
less
if the camera's
useful.
looking for license plates, they're going to find 50 instead of 1.
Yeah.
Is that the idea?
Yeah, and they'll have a bunch of crappy license plates with data that's not great.
Okay.
So I put that on, then I put on...
So it's more of a jab at the system than a...
Yeah, exactly.
Got it.
It didn't really help me. And then I
What do we
tried
got?
these.
What do we got here?
These are great. These are glasses, stylish glasses.
These are not blue light blocking glasses, are they?
No, these don't block blue light, but they do reflect any infrared or cameras. So it prevents all facial recognition.
Because your iris is blocked, your eyes are blocked, is that why?
No, yes, exactly. So one interesting thing is on your iPhone X, when you do the facial recognition, if you close your eyes, it won't open. It needs to
Really?
see. Yeah, you can all try that.
Huh.
If your eyes are closed, it won't open. And this causes enough glare for infrared.
You look great, too.
I do look great. So I was going to leave the house in that shirt and these glasses, and then I realized that no spy I've ever seen was this obvious.
Dresses like that.
Like Silicon Valley was just going to hear about me by word of mouth if I left the house like this.
Sure. Okay, that's a good question, though. Are there, okay, before we get to that, how much of this have you maintained now? I mean, there's a lot going on here in order to actually operate under the radar and maintain some semblance of privacy, but it's, if not cash intensive, it's very labor intensive.
Yeah. Can I hold off on that answer to the end?
Till the, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Because it gets crazier.
Let's go there.
Okay. Also, one cool experiment I ran into that made me think about data our privacy a little differently was the fact that we are constantly signing up for rewards programs, which I cannot resist. Like any rewards program I am excited about. And they're always phrased in like the way that, a punch card where you like buy 10 burritos and you get a free horchata? Where they physically punch your card?
Yes.
It's sold to you like that. Like you are a loyal customer, sign up for this rewards program, and because of your loyalty, we will give you a gift. That's not what's going on. It has nothing to do with your loyalty. They just want your data. And in exchange, you're getting something in return, usually much less than the value of your data. So one cool experiment that I really liked that an artist did in Europe was he created a cafe where you got your latte for free, but when you arrived, what you found out was the exchange was, in exchange for your free latte, there was a big screen that everyone could see in the cafe, much like these, and you gave them your phone and they put your last 4 photos up on the screen.
That's the trade.
That's the trade. And it's quite a gamble.
So, okay, yeah.
It's a lot of personal information. It's more than you think, your last 4 photos. And they can be more embarrassing than you think.
Yeah. Can you check them first, or you hand it over?
You did not know what your last 4 or 5 photos were, and they went up there.
Go ahead.
That's the exchange you're making. You're giving up data that you're not really sure of that might be personal.
So this cafe is a gimmick to show you what's happening.
An artist did this, yeah.
Yes, got it. All right.
Okay, so which of these things am I still doing?
Yeah.
Almost none.
Almost none.
Yeah.
Okay.
And some of them were no cost, no effort. Like I switched from Google to DuckDuckGo, which is an equally good search engine.
Okay.
I had switched from like Google Chrome to Brave, which was an equally good browser. I've stopped doing nearly everything. The one thing I've continued to do is if I want to talk poorly about someone, I do use the Signal app, which is an encrypted app to send texts with.
Okay, got it.
And I don't always remember to do that. It's hard to remember to care about this stuff.
Now, only because we have 4 minutes and 20 seconds left, Joel, I'm curious, because if I were to summarize this, I would say you did everything imaginable to avoid detection.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you decided it's just not worth it.
So I was talking to this guy who calls himself a digital vegan, which means he's really not using tech. He works for the ACLU, and he lives in Manhattan, and he literally grabs old Metro cards off the ground, puts cash on them, uses them, and throws them out. Like he's
into it.
He's into it. He's very, very, very into avoiding being traced.
Right.
But what he said to me was that privacy is like pollution. Like you are not going to solve the problem of pollution or global warming by changing things yourself. It's a problem that needs to be solved on a societal level, either a legal level or a cultural level or both.
Okay. Now, I mean, could we ever imagine that happening when possibly the biggest purchasers of our data will be governments? How would that get regulated?
It's interesting. I see Europe fighting back a lot.
Okay.
And that trickles down here. But if you use the web in Europe, like it's a pretty different experience. And then you see countries like China that are exporting insane surveillance state stuff.
So what do you think about the U.S. then moving forward? What's the impact of us continuing to move down into a world where we all live in glass houses and we're all exposed and we're not going to fight it anymore? Or is the U.S. a nation that could fall into better regulated, better privacy, better protection?
I think it's a question of societal norms. Like at some point, we're all going to get burned. And I don't know. At that point, do we just we all accept it as one of the many things that are kind of annoying in life, that every so often we have to deal with someone who saw an embarrassing email we wrote, or we have to deal with.
Because if I were to, and I'm a perpetual optimist, but I'd love to think that there's an upside to this, in that we stop judging so harshly, we stop critiquing so harshly, because we've all got skeletons in the closet.
Yeah.
And instead of hanging somebody out to dry and pointing the finger whenever something goes wrong, maybe we'll check ourselves a little bit. I don't know. Maybe that's a stretch, and I'm out to lunch.
I could see it going that way, like the end of cancel culture.
Right.
But I could see it going the other way too.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, you can see both models out there in the world right now. You can see what it's like if you're a Uyghur in China with cameras following you everywhere, and your entire extended family's life on the line depending on what you do.
Right.
But you could also see a world more like people getting really sick of this and being willing to pay money for things instead of just giving up their data.
Got it.
That's what you'd have to do. You'd have to start actually paying for things instead of expecting everything to be free.
Okay, so what's the lowest hanging fruit? We want to protect ourselves as best we can.
Yeah, definitely stop giving out your email. Get a secondary email for even if you don't want to use MySudo, just go to Yahoo or something and get a junk email that you use every time you don't want to give it out.
Got it.
That's the easiest thing. I do like Signal or some app where you can send encrypted texts that aren't going to be saved.
And I tend to think WhatsApp does a decent job, but I've done zero digging into that.
That's not great, but it's
better, maybe. When we had Snowden on the big screen, this was somebody asked a question about BlackBerry's encryption, because as Canadians, for a long time we've been pretty proud of this homegrown story. And the question was, are we better protected if we're using BlackBerry? And he just stopped and said, it doesn't make a difference. It's all out there for you.
It is. I think Signal is more encrypted. There's another one that's supposedly even a little better. But yeah, just try and remember every time you send an email. I just saw somebody after the Trump phone calls to the Ukraine, there was someone very cool. I feel like it was Ice-T that went on Twitter and was like, first rule of the game: you don't email, call, or text any private information that's going to get you in trouble.
Yeah.
So I just think about that every time I'm about to type something, that I'm like, oh, if that person saw it, I wouldn't like it. I don't send it.
Okay. Look, Joel, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
I don't know how many keynotes I've hosted over the years, but you were absolutely the most fun to negotiate with, to get you up to Vancouver.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to having dinner tonight.
Me too.
Okay.